Hello, this is D, and I'm back with another video and more PlayStation 5 Pro coverage. Now, Digital Foundry did an unboxing this morning on their channel, and the most interesting thing from the unboxing was their interpretation of the specs that were inside of the console. Now, these were inside of the pamphlet, and you know, the last few days, fanboys have been going crazy. Now, I've been saying that the PlayStation 5 Pro is capable of doing 33.5 Tflops of performance because it has dual issue on its RDNA core. Now, Digital Foundry went in on this today, and we're gonna see what they said and come back and give you guys my opinion.
Well, we'd have liked to have added the optical drive, but that's off the table. But something has emerged from the manuals that we disregarded so callously earlier. So let's take a look at the manual. Now within, it's actually the safety guide, funnily enough, but it has...
Safety guide.
Yes. It has the official specifications for the PlayStation 5 Pro here. And what's interesting about this is that we've not really had these from Sony yet, and there are some interesting points to it. The memory is now confirmed as having an extra 2 gigabytes of DDR5. So we know from the leaks that there was something like 1.2, 1.3 gigabytes of extra memory available to developers. So I reckon they're shunting maybe system level functions to this other memory, giving the faster memory to the games. That's interesting. Also interesting is that maximum power output is now rated for 390 watts. That's not actually going to be how much power the games take to run. It's kind of like just total capacity of the power supply. But it is actually quite low, bearing in mind that the PlayStation 5 Slim is 340 watts for the digital edition. So yeah, obviously this machine has more performance, it's going to require more power. But here's the thing that's quite interesting from my perspective. It says here that the graphics side of things is rated for 16.7 teraflops. Now, John, the leaked specifications were talking about 33.5. So there's a disparity there, and it makes me wonder whether there's other bits of information which were probably incorrect in those leaks. What do you think?
Right. It does seem that way, doesn't it? That's very interesting, actually, because we haven't actually seen that specific number, and I think the teraflop wars are over
Yes.
at this point, where now there are other factors that determine the overall system performance level. But it is funny, if you kind of Atari Jaguar style do the math, they've essentially bolted on an Xbox One X worth of teraflops onto the PS5, resulting in this machine.
I hadn't even thought about it like that.
Right? Like, that's what they've done here, essentially. Yep. And it just, I think it's interesting that it's now been relegated to like this little bit of manual, and it's no longer part of the marketing or anything like that. And it just kind of shows that it's not really that important anymore.
Yeah, the clock speeds are also missing compared to prior specs that Sony have released here. I guess that is relevant, but the question is when Sony are going to actually disclose that, if they're going to disclose it at all. I think we've seen from estimates it's about 2.17, 2.18 gigahertz there, but we just have to see whether that information emerges. But the leak was saying 33.5 teraflops. This says 16.7. It seems to me that an RDNA 3 feature, dual issue FP32, which isn't particularly relevant for gaming performance, isn't actually a feature of the PlayStation 5 Pro GPU. So an interesting spec point, but nothing that's particularly game-changing as such. But I think that's it, John. I think we have done the job here.
So let's break down what Richard Ledbetter said on Digital Foundry. Now, basically they're saying that that feature, it really isn't that important. Now, I want to point out that this feature is on RDNA 3 GPUs, but on PC, it was never really used. So that's what he means by it doesn't really make a difference, because no developer, no game that I know actually even took advantage of the dual issue performance that RDNA 3 provides. Now, a lot of people, they're kind of just putting a little part of the clip, so you don't get the full context of what Digital Foundry said. So you can use your own comprehension skills to see what they meant. Now, they're basically saying that teraflops don't really matter anymore because there's other things in the console system that allow it to have performance. Now, PSSR, we know obviously is one of them, you know, the better rasterization of the GPU, the faster RAM, of course, you know, software does get the most out of these consoles. Now, people think this is like a big W. Now, I'll say here, I was saying that it was 33.5 teraflops of performance. It is capable of that, but Sony, they're not using that feature of RDNA 3. Now, this doesn't make it RDNA 1, the PlayStation 5 Pro. Digital Foundry didn't say that the PlayStation 5 Pro is not RDNA 3. What they said is, surprisingly, they're not using that feature. Now, there could be a host of reasons why they're not using it. It could be because of marketing, because you're not going to get that 33.5 teraflops of performance every time or in every situation. It's theoretically the best performance, and I think they just didn't want to go with that. Like I said, on PC, it didn't equate to more performance on RDNA 3. Now, RDNA 3 was better at like ray tracing, and of course, that was the first architecture to have some type of machine learning on it. But in the whole, it didn't give them the advantage that you would think it would have from the teraflop count that AMD was giving to RDNA 3 GPUs. Now, we're going to go all in on this, and we're going to go into details on what was actually in the leak. Now, I can't show you guys the leak on air because these are Sony documents and I just can't show it to you. I'm not getting a strike on my channel just to prove a point. But if you've seen the leaked documents, you're going to know what I'm saying right now is true. Now, on the document, it said it had 8-bit integers of 300 TOPS for machine learning AI. It also said it has 67 Tflops of 16-bit floating point operations. Now, 16-bit, that is half precision. Now, if you put it to 32 bits, you get the 33.5 teraflops. Once again, AMD, they rate their teraflops like this because of the dual compute. So this is actually in the internal documents that Sony gave out to the developers. It also talks about PSSR, how it's going to be able to do 8K up to 60 frames per second. It says PSSR is a mobile learning enhanced version of temporal anti-aliasing solution. It replaces the game's existing temporal anti-aliasing upsampling inputs, and it's similar to DLSS, and it has full HDR support, yada, yada, yada. So it's going through all the specs that we pretty much know. So that's why myself and other outlets, even Digital Foundry, was quoting the 33.5 teraflops of performance. Let's get this straight, because these came from internal documents from Sony. Now, for whatever reason, marketing, or they're just not using the feature, or it's just not worth mentioning, Sony is just not listing it. Now, this doesn't make the PlayStation 5 Pro less capable. And Digital Foundry said that in the video. They said it doesn't even matter because the hardware that is inside that system is very capable. It doesn't matter. 16.7 Tflops is going to give you more performance than 12 Tflops. Even if we're not using Tflops as a measurement, it is newer technology and it's made by the same people. It's made by AMD. So if we use 16.7 Tflops against 12 Tflops, I don't know about your guys' math, but you're going to yield better results on the higher machine. Add in PSSR, add in the fact that you have 3 to 4 times better ray tracing performance, and then you can see that the PlayStation 5 Pro is going to be a superior system. So it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. If some people want to give me the L saying I said it's 33 and in actuality it's 16.7, but if you add 16.7, if you times it by 2, you actually get the 33.5 teraflops of performance. You have Digital Foundry saying that the 33.5 teraflops of performance came from the dual issue, which I was saying was the case. And a lot of people were saying, I don't know what I'm talking about. No such thing as dual issue. I was proven to be right in the case. And these are from the internal leaked documents from Sony that we were quoting these specifications. So if some people want to give me an L on this, that's fine. We can take an L on this, but it doesn't change the fact that the PlayStation 5 Pro is superior to any console that is out on the market. PlayStation 5 Pro is going to have a Call of Duty Black Ops 6 mode. So Xbox's own games are going to run and look better on the PlayStation 5 Pro. What are you guys celebrating? It makes no sense. And some people say, why are you going so hard against Xbox guys? It's not against the core Xbox fans, because I will always be an Xbox fan. I love Game Pass. I think it's the best value in gaming. But there's a subset of nutty guys out there that say all kinds of things. And what I was saying was being quoted from Sony's internal documents. What about the guys out there that were saying machine learning AI is capable on the Xbox Series X? In fact, Microsoft is going to release an update that will allow it to happen, and Sony is just catching up to Microsoft. If people want to be handing out L's, this is the biggest L that these guys are going to take. So let's play what Digital Foundry said about Xbox fans thinking that machine learning AI is going to be anywhere near what the PlayStation 5 Pro is capable of doing.
There's been some odd posts on social media. It's like, oh, Sony is finally catching up to Microsoft because they're adding machine learning features. Xbox Series consoles have had it for the last 4 years. It's just nobody has used them. Now, Alex, can we clarify this situation?
I mean, there's an order of magnitude and difference in how much more capable the PS5 Pro is than an Xbox Series X or Series S, for that matter. The 100 tops thing is in reference to Int 4, which is typically not what is used at all for machine learned upscaling. There is nothing preventing Microsoft from trying to make a machine learned model that fits and runs well on the Series X, but they haven't done it. So, they were not first to anything if it's not even used at all. It is like, has anything used it to our outward facing knowledge or inward facing knowledge at this point? No one has. It didn't amount to diddly squat at this point. So, I mean, I think an interesting use case for it would be running Auto SR for Xbox 360 backwards compatibility games. We've talked about this before on the show. Because they already made this Auto SR model that runs on MPUs that are like 40 int 8 tops, right? And a GPU running it would incur less issues than an MPU off chip or using different like memory and cache. So like, I feel like there is a use case for it. It's just Microsoft has never shown interest in doing anything with it. So I would say no. There's nothing special Microsoft have done that Sony haven't already.
Yeah, I think it's worth bearing in mind that the series architecture was designed in 2016. So ML was on the radar, it was on the horizon, but the extent to how it would blow up, 7-8 years later, just wasn't really considered at that point. Anyway, let's move on.
So there you have it. They were laughing. They thought it was hysterical that some thought that the Xbox Series X had the capabilities of doing machine learning AI like the PlayStation 5 Pro did. They said that the PlayStation 5 Pro is magnitudes ahead of what the Xbox Series X is doing, that Microsoft has never done anything machine learn AI upscaling on the console. It's 4 years into the console generation, and they haven't done it. So why is that? Because it doesn't have enough performance. They talked about the 100 tops. You see a lot of people saying, oh, Xbox has 100 tops. 100 tops of integer 4 calculations. Nobody uses that for machine learning AI. I told you in previous videos that 8 integers is what's used for machine learning on pretty much everything. So 300 tops is a lot more than what Microsoft has available to them. They have 9 tops available on the Xbox Series X. If you use Rapid Pack Math, they have 49. It is simply not enough to do machine learning AI on the Xbox Series X. It's laughable. So I don't know. We're just going to have to leave that alone. It is what it is. The PlayStation 5 Pro is coming out this week. We're going to be seeing all kinds of comparisons. Yesterday, I released a video of a bunch of gameplay from the PlayStation 5 Pro. It is outperforming the current generation consoles. It's not even close. So what are we doing here? Now, I want to also discuss the differences with the dual issue that RDNA 3 cards had on PC and why it's not being touted on the PlayStation 5 Pro. Now, we're going to look right here and we're going to see the 4070 compared to the 6800 XT. Now the 4070, its Tflops, let's get into it here. The 4070 Tflops is 29.15 Tflops. The 6800 XT has 20.74 Tflops of FP32 calculations. Okay, so it is effectively less than the 4070. Yet when we look on the GPU chart, they are neck and neck in performance. So Tflops at the end of the day really aren't the end all to performance on any hardware. It's just a theoretical peak performance that the company rates their GPUs for. Now the 6800 XT, which of course is going to be comparable to the PlayStation 5 Pro, it is matching a 4070 here. I see a lot of people thinking that this is going to be some anemic 3060 graphics card that's going to be in the PlayStation 5 Pro. That is the furthest thing from reality. Now, I also found some information on why PSSR is running so good on the PlayStation 5 Pro. Now, this is coming courtesy of Leviathan the Gamer. Now, he has so much knowledge. It's just incredible. Now, when I'm unsure on something or I want some clarification, I always kind of refer to him because he just knows what he is talking about and he goes into great detail. So he responded to my post on RDNA 3 GPUs using the dual issue shader to improve the throughput, which allows them to execute 2 instructions per cycle. Now, risk it for the biscuit, he was kind of fighting me on this, like I didn't know what I was talking about. And he kind of confused the issue with FP16, FP32 calculations, which is half precision, which is completely different from dual issue. Anyways, Leviathan said, obviously real world performance is limited. Theoretically, you can achieve twice the compute, but dual issue has its limitations. Although it has twice the ALUs, it's very limited instruction support, so many instructions can only be single issued. It can somewhat bypass this with Wave 64, which is where the threads are bundled in groups of 64 versus Wave 32. When they are bundled in groups of 32, but this runs in the main limitation memory hierarchy that the 7900 XTX has 1.5 the register file, which is not enough to feed 2 times compute increase, which puts pressure in the LO, L1, and L2 and infinity cache, and then finally VRAM. RDNA 3 struggles with this already, and the PlayStation 5 Pro has no infinity cache and L2 cache. It's the same as the base PlayStation 5. VRAM is only 28% faster, so despite having 3.25 times the theoretical compute, more than 62% in single issue performance, it's only 45% faster. This is because using 2 shader engines compared to the 7700, 7800 XTX, which uses 3 shader engines as well as only 28% faster memory. There is still one benefit of the PlayStation 5 Pro gets from the double ALU that is on the PS5 Pro, and the extra ALUs that are used for machine learning, PSSR, runs very well there thanks to this. So it appears that the PlayStation 5 Pro, they're not using the dual issue. Now, there were some issues, like I said, with it running on PC. It was never used. If we look at the performance of a 7800 XT and the performance of a 6800 XT, they're very, very close because it just wasn't used properly. So this is probably why Sony is not using it on the PlayStation 5 Pro. Now, that does not mean that it is not using RDNA 3 architecture, because it obviously is. We also know that it's using RDNA 4 because Cerny has confirmed to CNET that RDNA 4 ray tracing is on the PlayStation 5 Pro. So all these knuckleheads out there saying that the PlayStation 5 Pro is RDNA 1 don't know what they're talking about. The PlayStation 5 Pro is the latest hardware that is available for consoles that AMD makes, and it's only going to be available on the PlayStation 5 Pro. I really don't know what to say to these guys. And to be honest with you guys, I just don't think I'm going to fight with these guys anymore because they're in denial. They, for some reason, think that the Xbox Series X is close in performance to the PlayStation 5 Pro. And as you guys all know, that is asinine. Now, I want to also go over to an article at themedium.com. And like usual, I'll leave a link in the description down below so you guys can check it out for yourself. Now, I'm sorry, but today's kind of going to be a long video. We want to get into all of these details. I know some of you guys want to know all the tech behind the PlayStation 5 Pro. Now, this article goes on to say that the Sony announcement of the PlayStation 5 Pro rekindles speculation on new gaming tech, a new RDNA 4 based SoC, a new AI accelerator, a new AI-driven upscaler PSSR. Shortly after that, AMD added to the noise with a vague pre-announcement of their own AI-driven upscaler FSR4. And just right now, finally confirming that more officially. Now, he goes on to say this story will put together lots of recent news about AI upscaling with focus on the eventual release of FSR 4.0 and my expectations about it. Now, let's start off with the console. Sony Mark Cerny boasts to CNET that the PlayStation 5 Pro uses a new advanced ray tracing feature set that AMD created as its next step in their roadmap architecture. But if you look around, there are no other AMD GPUs that use it yet. We motivated the development. Now, that triggered reactions like Digital Foundry. In the past, AMD would push innovations through their DGPUs, starting with PS5 and Xbox Series X. They got RDNA 2 features before the PC. On PC, they released half-baked RDNA 1 that is not scaling these days. RDNA was its contemporary to the late PlayStation 4 and Xbox One era. As Mark says, the new ray tracing is part of AMD's next architecture. RDNA's third iteration on ray tracing and second on AI. AMD just confirmed RDNA 4 big features improvements in both AI and ray tracing. None of that is Sony exclusive or even motivated. Launch is confirmed to be early 2025, giving the PlayStation 5 Pro a couple of months of a lead when AMD tries to clear old inventory. Now, they go on to talk about the AI accelerators on the PlayStation 5 Pro, RDNA 3 and RDNA 4. Now, they say, what exactly is the AI accelerator on the PlayStation 5 Pro? Is it RDNA 4? For Sony's console, Moore's Law is Dead's leak. His video was stricken from YouTube by Sony, but you can find a summary here. Now, we kind of went through that a little bit earlier. Now, it claims a fully custom AI capable of 300 TOPS of 8-bit. There was some speculation that it could be XDNA 2 NPU from Ryzen AI APUs, but that doesn't match the leak. Not custom, only 50 TOPS. But I also don't see why Sony would need anything custom if they're getting the full RDNA 4. And he goes on, like I said, I'm going to leave a description in the comment section down below so you guys can check it out for yourself. But he goes on to kind of say that it's quite possible that the PlayStation 5 Pro is actually RDNA 4. Now, we know that it's going to have RDNA 4 ray tracing. We know it's going to have the RDNA 4 AI. Now, going through his article and going through all of the changes in RDNA 4, it doesn't seem like it's a big departure from RDNA 3. It seems to be pretty much RDNA 3 with a few extensions and better ray tracing, obviously, and AI support for machine learning upscaling. Those are pretty much the differences between RDNA 3 and 4. Now, I found out today that possibly the PlayStation 5 Pro is actually 4 nanometers. Now, we're getting some unboxings, obviously, and we're also getting some teardowns. And as you can see from the image here, hopefully this is for fair use, you can see that it's pretty small. Now, if this is 4 nanometers indeed, you're going to get the benefits of better cooling, better efficiency, and also the possibility that it is indeed full RDNA 4. And if that is the case, that is going to blow gamers' minds because the performance is going to be crazy. And that would mean, once again, the consoles are getting tech before the PC does. Now, don't get it twisted. Obviously, PC components are going to come out early next year that are going to outperform the PlayStation 5 Pro. We're going to get the 5090. So we're not saying that this is going to be the best thing ever in gaming. It's not. Of course, PC will always be superior. But when it comes to console gaming, to have the latest tech, that is a huge advantage. And if this is indeed 4 nanometers and RDNA 4, that is a huge win for the PlayStation 5 Pro. This week, we're going to have so many comparisons. We're going to have a lot of teardowns. We're going to have so much details on the PlayStation 5 Pro, and I'm positive that gamers are going to be impressed with the results. Now, we found out that Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is going to have a PlayStation 5 Pro mode. We found out that Spider-Man is using the highest preset for ray tracing. There is a toggle for this. We're hearing that developers are just really going all out and putting all the bells and whistles on their PlayStation 5 Pro modes for their games. Now, we're hearing that Empire of the Ants runs a dynamic 1600p on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, a native 972p on the Xbox Series S. Meanwhile, on the PlayStation 5 Pro, it's going to be 1440p upscaled to 4K running at 60 FPS. Now, this title is running at 30 FPS on the PlayStation 5 on the Xbox Series X. It's running from 1440p dynamic up to 1600p. Once again, at 30 FPS. This is Empire of the Ants. On the PlayStation 5 Pro, it achieves 60 FPS at 4K upscaled from 1440p using PSSR. How can you not tell me that is not a big update when the base consoles will be running that game at 30 FPS and the PlayStation 5 Pro will be running it at 4K 60 FPS? Anyways, I'm tired of this. I'm not going to answer to the trolls anymore. If people want to give us an L for the 33.5 teraflops and the 16.7 teraflops that are actually in the manual, I really don't care, because at the end of the day, the PlayStation 5 Pro has a lot more performance than the Xbox Series X. It is a generational leap with some of the features that are available on that console. The Xbox Series X is not capable of doing machine learning AI at the scale of PSSR. It just is not possible. It does not have the hardware. It does not have the compute to do it. Digital Foundry, they said it in plain English. It's in the video. You can see it for yourself. And anyone that's out there that is still trying to push this narrative, ignore those people, because clearly they don't know what they're talking about. Now, when it comes to the dual issue, I was right. It is capable on RDNA 3. Now, whether or not Sony is using it is a completely different situation. And it also doesn't negate the fact that this was actually in Sony's own leaked documentation that was never intended for the public to see. That was always intended for developers. So take that for what it is. Anyways, I'm sure we're going to get more updates on this as the week progresses. And if we get more information, I will do a video on it. But I'm excited for the PlayStation 5 Pro. I already got a charge for my console, so I know it's about to be shipped. And we're going to have the console on our channel this week. Anyways, I want to know what you guys think about all of today's stories. I think the PlayStation 5 Pro is going to be a fantastic update over the regular consoles. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. And like I usually say, please like, share, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one.